We're back as we continue Aeneas's reply to Dido, lines 337 to 344. Pro re pauca loquar, neque ganc abscundere furto, speravi ne finge fugam, ne coniugis unquam praetendi taedas, aut haec in foedera veni. Stop there. Pro re pauca loquar. Loquar is deponent from loquor, loqui, locutus, and this is a future, and we know so because it has the a in there. Usually future in the third conjugation, which loqui is a third conjugation, is am es et, emus et is ent, and this happens to have the passive endings on it because it's deponent. So ris, tur, mur, ini, untur. So instead of the active ending, it has are for the future active indicative first person singular. So I shall say, I will say. So the subject is ego, and Aeneas is speaking. So Aeneas is speaking, I shall say, pauca, pauca verba, a few words, understood, pro re, for my case, or what this means is pro me, for me, and it's a de re, about my case. So you got to understand those are implied in there. I shall say a few words for myself concerning my case, or concerning my thing, or I shall say a few things for my case. It sounds very legal, as if he's a lawyer laying out his case here. And he says very specifically that's what he's going to do. Neque ganc abscundere furto speravi, ne finge fugam. Neque, and then you're going to have the nec here, so this is neither nor. Neither did I, speravi, and this is a choice word to use here because this is neither did I hope or imagine. If you'll remember back in line 305, this is the very first verb that Dido used when she was addressing Aeneas. Did you hope to be able to mask such a flight or such a crime? Go back and take a look at line 305 and you'll see the same words being used. So Aeneas is answering Dido point for point here. Neither did I hope to abscondere, to hide, that's a verb, complementing speravi. The accusative it takes is hanc fugam, this flight. Furto, with stealth, and that's ablative. So let's put it all together. Neither did I hope to hide this escape or this flight by stealth or with stealth. Ablative, do by, with, or from. Ne finge, don't imagine, and you got to put in hoc, don't imagine this, meaning what he just said. Hoc, okay. Ne finge. Now normally if you want to say don't imagine something and use the imperative, you would say noli fingere, and that would be using the verb nolo plus the infinitive. That would be the way we would say it in prose, but poetic, you can do this. Ne finge and noli fingere mean the same thing. I really liked a translation that I saw in one edition by Knapp, and he says, fancy it not. So that's a blast to the past there for you. Fancy it not. You got to love that one. Let's move on to the next part here. Nec coniugis umquam praetendi taedas aut haec in foedera veni. Now we had the neque here, now we have nor. Nor did I, the subject is still ego, and praetendi is our verb. Praetendi is a perfect active, first person singular, indicative. That's why it ends in the I. Remember, perfect endings are I, iste, it, imus iste erunt. And speravi was a perfect active too. I just didn't call attention to it earlier. So neither did I hope to go away or to hide this flight, nor did I praetendi, did I hold, or stretch, I guess you could say, stretch forth, or hold forth. Tendo tendere means to stretch. Think of our words in English like tendon and contend. And then prae is one of its compounds, forward. So stretch forward or stretch before. Well, I guess forward would be maybe pro, maybe a little better, but stretch before. Nor did I stretch forward or extend the taidas, the torches, and these are marriage torches specifically. The marriage torches. What kind of marriage torches? He describes it further for us. Conjugus of a husband. That's very key there. He's establishing in this sentence that he is not her husband, and he does not have that kind of an oath to her, or a kind of a contract, which we're going to see in the second part here. So, nor did I hold out the marriage torches of a husband, umquam, ever since I've been here, or did I wane, did I come, that's perfect also, e is to it, did I come in haik foidera, into these contracts, or these binding agreements. Foidus is a compact or an agreement between people or groups. And Aeneas is saying here, I am not your husband. I am not held by that bond. Okay? Or did I come into these contracts? Now that's neuter plural too, by the way, foidera, and so haik is the neuter plural form of hic, haik, hoc. Haik can also be a feminine singular nominative form, but here it's the neuter plural for accusative. Think of when you say haik verba, these words, okay, haik foidera, these contracts. If you're looking at this sentence as a whole, let's go over the whole thing, and then we can put it together and understand Aeneas' reasoning here. I will speak a few words for my own case. Neither did I hope, using that same word Dido did, to hide this flight in secret or in stealth. Do not imagine it, fancy it not. Nor did I ever hold forth the marriage torches of a husband, or come into these agreements or these contracts. So he's saying, I wasn't going to go away without telling you in furto, because I had no reason to. I'm not your husband. I was only bound by the guest-host sort of contract of the ancient world, not the marriage contract. So I had no reason to go in secret as you accused me earlier. So this is a very nice, well, not for Dido, it's not nice, but for Aeneas, it's a nice, clean way of dismissing her first claim that he was planning to take off in secret. Okay, let's continue on with the next part. Me si fata meis paterentur ducere vitam, auspiciis et sponte meia componere curas, urbem Troianum primum, dulcesque meiorum, reliquias colerem, priami tectalta maneret, et recidiva manu posuissem pergama victis. We're looking at this whole statement here, and we see this C. This is a conditional statement. And we've had a number of these in this interchange between Aeneas and Dido, and here we have another one of them. So you're going to see the C, and you're also going to see some imperfect subjunctives. That we got one there, we also have one here, and here we have a pluperfect subjunctive and another imperfect subjunctive here. If paterentur, now this verb, I just want to camp on this verb for a second. It's from patior, important verb, pati, passus, sum. Looking at its principal parts, you'll know right away that it is deponent because it ends in a passive ending here. All these are passive. This is the passive first person singular, present active indicative. This is the the passive infinitive, present infinitive. And this is the passive perfect, the perfect passive. But it's a deponent, so it's active in its meaning, but it's passive in its forms. It means to suffer. I suffer, to suffer, I have suffered. Or to allow, in a sense. Okay, you can also say to allow. Maybe you think of some of the older versions of the Bible when instead of saying allow the children to come to me, Jesus says suffer the children to come to me. If you're familiar with the King James text, so suffer can mean allow. And some English words that might come to your mind that are derived from this, words like patience or passion. Passion can mean something you suffer for it, or it could be actually a suffering, as in the passion of the Christ. It has a number of derivatives in English. Paterentur is the imperfect subjunctive. Notice that it is patere, which is what would be the active stem of this verb, in the active infinitive, in the present, but it lacks that, right? Pati, it would be patere, and then you just add on the endings. In this case, it's a passive ending. So let's translate it like this. If the fates allowed me. Okay, so the subject is the fata. If the fates allowed me, that's accusative. Ducere, now there's a complementary infinitive that goes along with patior, to lead my life. And then we have this ablative here, meis auspiciis, by my own authority. Those go together. By my own authorities. Got the poetic plural usage here. By my own authorities, my own auspices. And that's an important word too. Think of auspices has this idea of this divine authority. It comes from the word auspex, which means the bird watchers, and they're the ones that watch the flight of birds to tell the omens. Literally, it's the awis, bird, specs, bird watch. And so auspices is related to this telling of the fates and the omens. So I think that having this word auspices goes very well with fates. If the fates allowed me to lead my life by my own authority, and you got to put in allowed me again, they allowed me to calm my cares, or my affairs, calm my cares, you could even say troubles, spontaneia, by my own will. You could also say desire for that, sponte, and that is an ablative also, spontaneia. Componere is a complementary infinitive, just like ducere. So ducere and componere both ride on paterentur. They both depend on that. They complement this verb. And then kuras is the accusative, the object of componere. Time that you've seen componere before, this word, you might remember when Neptune was calming the sea. We used the word componere. So, one more time. If the fates allowed me to lead my own life my life by my own authority, my own auspices, and to calm my cares by my own will or desire. Now, this is the conditional part. Everything else is going to be the conclusion. And by conclusion, I mean, if this condition exists, then this conclusion will exist, right? If this, then this. So if the fates allow this stuff, urbem Troianum primum dulcesque meiorum reliquias colerem. The first part of this conclusion goes with colorem here in this whole part. Colorem, I would. I'm translating it I would because it's a subjunctive. This is also a present active subjunctive, first person singular from colo, colore. And it has a lot of different meanings. So I'm going to use a couple different meanings to translate it here because there's two different senses. So if all this, I would live, translating as live, or I would inhabit, the urbem Troianum primum. I would inhabit first the city of Troy, or the Trojan city. Okay, so those are the accusatives that are going with colorem. And primum, I would say primum is more of an adverb here, so I'm not going to identify it as a noun. So if the fates allowed me, I would live first in the city of Troy. That would be my first pick, if I could live anywhere. Second part of this, the second conclusion, dulcesque meiorum reliquas, and I would colorem, I would cherish. Now we're using the meaning cherish here. Cherish the remnants, or the sweet remnants of my people. You got to put in meiorum, virorum, or hominum in there, of mine, meaning my people. So I would cherish the sweet remnants, those left, meaning those who weren't killed by the Greeks, the sweet remnants, meiorum, that's a genitive, of my people. And you got to understand hominum or virorum is in there. So one more time. If the fates allowed it, and I'm not going to do everything, I would inhabit first the city of Troy, or the Trojan city, literally, and I would cherish the sweet remnants, those left behind, of my people. Before we move on to the next part, just want to make one comment on dulces, their sweet remnants. You might recall in line 281, another line we read earlier, that Carthage, the Carthaginian lands, were referred to as sweet by Vergil when he said that Aeneas burned to leave the sweet lands so that he could go found Italy. So interesting that we would use sweet to describe Carthage, and now sweet also to describe Troy, which he's saying, I would leave Carthage to go here. So between Carthage and Troy, we know the sweeter is Troy. Moving on now with this next part. Priami tectalta manerent. Now this is another conclusion to this contrary to fact condition. If the fates allowed me, then I would live in Troy, and I would cherish the sweet remnants of my people. And you got to put an et in there. We got asyndeton here, leaving out and, et. And the tecta alta, the high roofs, Priami of Priam, genitive. This means the city of Troy, manerent, would remain. So again, high roofs, this really is metonymy here, meaning the roofs substitute for the city. And since it's part for a whole, you could even say this is synecdoche. The roofs mean the city of Priam, mean Troy, that we referenced here earlier. Last part. Et recidiva manu posuissem Pergama victis. And I would have placed a recidiva Pergamum. Now this is pluperfect subjunctive. I would have placed. Pluperfect subjunctive uses the isse with the perfect stem and then endings. I would have placed a recidiva Pergama. Now remember that Pergamum is Troy. We have a poetic plural here, neuter plural. Restored Pergamas, but we know it just means one Pergama, one Troy. And recidiva means to fall again or to be reborn. Recado. So a born-again Troy, or a second Troy, if you want to translate it a little more freely. And how would he do it? Manu, he would do it with his hand. Manu is ablative. Now, there's a fourth declension ablative. Manus is one of those words that is a fourth declension, a very frequently used word. And so it's good to know the fourth declension for those words like Manu. And so ablative singular is the you. And then Victis, for the conquered, for his conquered people. So that's dative, for the conquered. And I would have placed or established, restored Pergamas by my hand, by my own hand is what he means, for the conquered. Let's do this whole part one more time. This contrary to fact condition, so you can hear the conditional part and then all the conclusions all together. If the fates allowed me to lead a life by my own authorities and to calm my cares by my own decision or will, then, you got to put in then, and these are all the conclusions, then I would live first in the city of Troy, or the Trojan city, and I would cherish, using that same verb but in a different sense, the sweet remnants of my people, and the high roofs of Priam would remain. They would still remain, perhaps, is the idea. Troy would live on in its original spot, right? And the high roofs of Priam would remain. And I would have placed, restored Pergamas by my own hand for the conquered. Okay, this has been a long one. That does it for these lines. Wale.